Most people don't lose their lives in one moment. They lose it in their mind first. They lose control of their thoughts. They let fear speak louder than logic. They let emotions make permanent decisions. And slowly, everything falls apart. This audiobook is about one brutal truth. If you don't control your mind will control you. Not sometimes, every single day. But here's the shift. The moment you take control of your thoughts, your reactions, your focus, you take control of your entire life. Chapter 1. Stop reacting and start responding. Let's get straight to it. Most people are not in control of their lives, not because they're lazy, not because they're incapable, but because they are constantly reacting to emotions, reacting to people, reacting to situations they never took the time to understand. And every reaction costs them something. It costs clarity. It costs respect. It costs control. You need to understand this right now. Your first instinct is emotional, not intelligent. That anger you feel? Instant. That frustration? Instant. That urge to reply, to defend, to snap back? Instant. But instant doesn't mean correct. That's where most people lose. They trust the first feeling. They act on impulse. They speak before they think, and then they regret it later. You've been there. You said something you didn't mean. You reacted too fast. You let a moment control you. That's the pattern. And if you don't break it, it will control your entire life. So here's the shift. Stop reacting. Start responding. There's a difference. A reaction is automatic. A response is intentional. A reaction is emotional. A response is controlled. A reaction is weak. A response is power. You have a choice, that's the key. When something happens, anything, there is a moment, a small moment. Most people miss it. But that moment is everything. It's the space between what happens to you and what you do next. That space is where control lives. That space is where your power is. And right now, you're probably skipping it. You go straight from stimulus to reaction. Someone criticizes you, you react. Something goes wrong, you react. You feel stressed, you react. No pause, no control, no awareness, just reaction. And reaction is dangerous, because reaction is predictable. If someone knows how you react, they can control you. If anger controls you, you are controlled. If stress controls you, you are controlled. If other people's words control you, you are controlled. Read that again in your mind. If it controls your reaction, it controls you. That's not strength. That's not power. That's dependency. So we changed it. You train the pause. You build the gap. You slow everything down. It sounds simple, it's not easy, but it is necessary. Next time something triggers you, and it will, you do one thing first. You pause. Not for long, not forever, just long enough to interrupt the reaction. 1 breath, 2 seconds. That's it. And in that moment, you remind yourself, I don't react. I choose. Say it again. I don't react. I choose. That's not just a phrase. That's a command. A command to your mind. A command to your behavior. Because you have a choice. You always have a choice. That's the part most people ignore. They act like they have no control. Like their anger just happens. Like their stress just takes over. Like their reactions are automatic and unavoidable. That's not true. It's trained behavior. And what's trained can be retrained. Let's talk about anger. Someone disrespects you, cuts you off, talks down to you. Your body reacts immediately. My heart rate goes up, muscles tense, my mind starts racing. And your instinct? Attack, defend, prove. That's the reaction. But what does that get you? More conflict, less respect, loss of control. Now imagine something different. Same situation, same trigger. But this time, you pause. You feel the anger, but you don't obey it. You observe it. You take one breath, and you remind yourself, I don't react. I choose. Now you're in control. Now you decide, is this worth my energy? Is this worth my time? Is this worth losing control? Most of the time, the answer is no. So you respond differently. Calm, direct, controlled. Or maybe you don't respond at all. That's power. Let's talk about stress. Things go wrong, plans fall apart, pressure builds. And your reaction? Panic, overthinking, frustration. You start rushing, making bad decisions, losing focus. That's the reaction. But stress doesn't require panic. Stress requires control. So again, you pause. You slow it down. You remind yourself, I don't react. I choose. Now you respond. You assess the situation. You focus on what you can control. You take one step at a time. That's how strong minds operate. Not faster, smarter. Let's talk about criticism. Someone questions you, doubts you, judges you. And your reaction? Defend yourself. Explain everything. Seek validation. Why? Because your ego feels attacked. But reacting to criticism gives it power. It means their words control your state. And you don't need that. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need to prove anything. So what do? You pause, you listen. You separate emotion from information, and you ask, is this useful? Is there truth here? If yes, you learn. If no, you move on. No reaction, just a response. That's control. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Reacting is easy. Responding is hard. Anyone can react. It takes zero discipline, zero awareness, zero control. But responding? That takes effort. That takes training. That takes repetition. And you're going to repeat this again and again. I don't react. I choose. Say it when you're calm. Say it when you're triggered. Say it until it becomes automatic. Because eventually, it will. And when it does, everything changes. Your relationships change. You stop escalating arguments. You stop saying things you regret. You become someone people respect. Why? Because you're stable. Because you're controlled. Because you don't break under pressure. Your work improves. You stop making emotional decisions. You stay focused under stress. You handle problems with clarity. That's how leaders think. That's how winners operate. Your self-respect increases because you trust yourself. You know you won't lose control. You know you won't act out of impulse. You know you can handle anything. That confidence is earned, and it starts here. But let's be clear. This is not a one-time decision. This is daily work. You will mess up. You will react sometimes. That's part of the process. But every time you catch yourself, every time you pause, every time you choose instead of react, you get stronger. You build control. You build discipline. And over time, that becomes who you are. So from this moment forward, I want you to remember one thing. There is always a gap between what happens and what you do. Most people ignore it. You won't. You will step into it. You will own it. You will use it. Because that gap is your power. Final takeaway. You don't need to react. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to let emotions control you. You have a choice. And that choice is simple. React and stay weak. Or respond and take control. That's the key. And in the next chapter, we go deeper. Because even when you pause, even when you try to respond, there's still something inside your mind trying to take over. Your thoughts. And here's the truth. Not every thought you have is true. That's where we go next.